Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Module 2 of Social Work Honours Research. We tried, for those of you that weren't involved, we tried a Skype group meeting last Tuesday. Didn't work out so well, so let's do a bit of housekeeping first before we get onto the topic. Next Tuesday at 7:30, we will try to have a group Skype meeting again. So what I recommend everybody does is, unless you only installed Skype last week, if you've had it on your computer for a while, I'd like you to delete it and then reinstall the latest version. And that way, if we've all got the latest version, we'll give it another try this Tuesday. And if we can't make it work, we'll have to put our heads together and see what else we can come up with. Talk about whether or not people can get to Bunbury or Busselton for a meeting once or twice. Perhaps that would help. Okay, so next Tuesday, 7:30, new version of Skype, and we'll see how we get on. This week, Module 2 is about choosing a research topic. And look, this is really important. And this week, I want you to choose a research topic, but you won't be held to it. So you can change your mind, and that's fine. But I want you to just look around at some of the things in your practice or in your placement that fascinate you, that interest you. And look, I can't say this enough, that the things that really fascinate you or interest you, and that are also, and in one of the videos, what they say, is going to be in front of you a lot. It's something you're involved with. That's probably a good area to get involved in as far as research. So something that you're up to your neck in anyway, especially if you're doing placements or likely to be working in the area, that's really important. My computer has just gone blank because it's on battery. I hope you can still see me, but I just couldn't see you for a second there. And the other thing is to make it easily definable. If you don't know how you've arrived, you'll never get there. So it's really important to have a research question that can be answered. And so when you ask a question like, what's it like for homeless people in Bunbury in winter, or is this parenting program really effective? Then you have to ask yourself, how would I know when I've answered the question? And of course, that brings up issues of what you think knowledge is, whether you're of a positivist bent or the question requires a positivist answer, or a constructionist bent. So then you start formulating your ideas about how this question can be stated and apprehended and then addressed. Once you've got an idea for the question and your approach, that'll start to suggest methodologies. I mean, if I want to know that the parents that did this parenting program are doing better 3 months down the track in terms of child behaviour, distress caused by child behaviours, parental conflict over behaviours, it's hard to answer that anyway, except with a positive sort of approach in questionnaires, because we need to have some sort of level playing field where we can compare groups. One of the things I suggest you don't do or avoid is letting your ideas about methodology inform or drive your research question. I want to do qualitative, and therefore they're the only questions I can ask. I just think that's, so I want to use a screwdriver, so now I'm going to go looking for a job that requires a screwdriver. Well, okay, if you want to, but I wouldn't suggest you limit yourself. And the reason I say that is because good qualitative research, good quantitative research are equally as difficult. And you're going to have to learn research methodologies one way or another. You're also going to have to excuse me. I've got to plug my computer in, or all will go blank and we'll be done. So just one moment. I'm not going to turn the camera off because then I have to start the video all again and I have to load 2 files. And okay, I'll be right back. Here we go. Okay, so I'm back. So, if you want to do really good grounded theory and qualitative research, or you want to do group comparisons and comparison of means and things like that, you still have to learn a methodology. You still have to learn the theoretical background, why you're doing what you're doing, what it means, what the idea behind it is, what sort of questions it can answer, what sort of questions it can't answer. You still have to learn that stuff. So to say, I'm not going to do quantitative because stats are really hard, I really don't believe them that much harder than good qualitative research. Of course, bad research of any kind is easier than good research of any kind. So I would really pick an area that interests you, and look, get on the forum and let's kick around some ideas. I mean, what's something you've been wondering about in your practice or in social work generally, or in something that you're seeing in your placement right now? And that's a really good place to start. And then we can kick it around. I'd be interested in a very brief, this is a question I'm interested in. This is the approach that might answer the question. This is a methodology that we might use. And I might even stick some poses, some research questions on the forum and get people to suggest approaches, methodologies, and so on, to get people's juices flowing as far as getting this question up and running. So choosing a research topic is quite difficult, but there's a few key ideas. And one of them is, I think it's really good if you're interested and you're around it a lot, that you have access to the area so that you can collect data. The other one is that it's definable. So you can define the question and you can define how you would know when you've got an answer or some information about that question. That's really important. And then that will drive your, you'll fill in the blanks then about the methodology. How are you going to get from the question to knowing that you've answered it? A to B. At least that's the approach I take. In my honours year, I trialled and evaluated a positive parenting program, a group program, for parents of children with a disability. Now, this wasn't the original honours project I was going to do, but I was working at an early childhood intervention service. The parents I was working with really needed help with challenging behaviours, pica, trichotillomania, that sort of thing, to just meltdowns and difficulties in establishing routines, sleep stuff, all of that. I went to the University of Queensland and said, we're all trained in individual stepping stones, but a group program would be great. They said, well, we've got a group program, but we haven't evaluated it. And I went, woohoo, guess what? I'm about to do honours. And so it kind of grew organically. But that was, you had a group on a waiting list. You had another group doing the program. You had pre and post measurement. And it was a fairly quantitative approach. It was really rewarding. I had a good time. Honours year is a bit stressy, I have to say. There's, doing your own research for the first time is daunting but rewarding. And as they say, there's really not much of a line between an adventure and an ordeal. Again though, the reasons I look back and think, wow, that was a really good honours topic was because I was around it all the time. It was solving a burning question or a concern that I had. I mean, I was around challenging behaviour. I was working with these families. I had access. It was something that was of interest and it felt useful. And it was clearly defined in that are the families that do this program doing better at the end of it than families that were in treatment as usual. And that was all I wanted to know. And it's funny, when you start unpacking your methodology and looking at all the stuff that's involved in that turns out to be a much more difficult question than you think. So what sounds like a really, really simple honours question, when you really unpack it and get into the literature, turns out to be more work than you think. And that's a good reason. So KISS method. Keep it simple, sweetheart. Be around it, be interested in it, and be specific. What is the question? How do you know when it's been answered? What sort of information or data would answer your question in a way that is satisfactory, or in a way that is useful to those that come after you? That stuff that why do we want to know as well? So this is a good couple of weeks of brainstorm. Now, when you get into the learning materials in Module 2, you're going to see a list of readings. Now, if you go to the e-reserve, it's not e-reserve4123, even though that is your subject number. It's social work SWK4106. Put in that number and you'll get the list of readings. They're only suggested. So look at Hart, look at Alston and Bowles, who I used to work with at CSU. Look at their stuff. It's mainly bent on qualitative stuff, and I think that was because all the lecturers who gone before couldn't teach quantitative. I can teach quantitative in a real basic sense. I can put you onto good readings. Because I've only spoken to a couple of you, I haven't really got a sense of what you're all into yet, so I'm not going to push that on you unless there's somebody that's interested in quantitative, and I'll steer them in that direction and get them some training. It doesn't have to be excessively complicated. There might be one part of your question that is well served by qualitative interviews, but is preceded by a brief quantitative analysis, like how many people are missing out on Centrelink benefits because of reason X. So you do a documentary search. When you found them, what's their perception of their situation? How could we help? There you go, qualitative. So mixed methods stuff. For an honours project, though, I don't think you want to get much more complicated than that. You've only got about 8 months. So it is really, really complex. And say what looks like a simple question when you first pose it, when you unpack it, starts to get really complicated and look really complicated. So try not to kick off a PhD subject. Now, on that, one of the conclusions that came out of our fairly scrambled sort of meeting last Tuesday night was it would be good if students could see a completed social work honours thesis from this program. So I've asked for one of those, and I'm chasing one up, and you will get access to it when I have it, because I think it'd be a good idea if you look over and give you an idea of the size and scope of the project you're involved in. They do vary quite a bit, but it'd be nice to know what's sufficient for a middling to good mark for a social work honours thesis. But those are my tips for developing a research question. The readings, yeah, read them by all means. They're not compulsory, but read over them, get some tips, get some ideas, look at some of the videos as well. And then the writing tasks this week is really about, one, keeping you in the habit of starting to write, because that's what you're going to be doing, and starting on lit review. I'd like you, now, when you've got an idea of what question you might be interested in answering, is go have a look at the literature and see whether or not there's anything's been done on this, the question's already been approached. If it has been approached, has it been approached in one way, and you could do a spin-off. So we're starting now to look at the literature review where your question may fit in. So that's the next step. So just 4 articles would be plenty at this stage. The literature in the area you're interested in might be almost non-existent, or it might be absolutely huge. I'm not really sure which one is better, actually. So that's the writing task for this fortnight as well. So just to get you in the habit of getting the juices flowing, getting you thinking about where questions fit in with the literature, because of course we have to identify some sort of gap in the literature or something we're adding to make a research question that is worth doing research on. If it's already been answered, great, look for something else. So that's where we're at for this session. Besides that, get in touch, start using the forum. I know that there aren't many of you, and I know that you're very busy with your placements and things like that, but just post some ideas for research questions on the forum, and I've got one set aside for section 2, and let's get this ball rolling, and I'll try and engage with that over the next week. And then next week we'll have a meeting to talk about it and kick our ideas around. In the meantime, if there's anything else I can or should be doing that you might find helpful, let me know. But hopefully by next week I'll have those honours theses available for you to have a look at as well. And I think that would probably put your mind at rest about what you're getting into. Okay, guys, I think I'll leave it there for now, and we'll talk more later in the week. Thanks, guys. Bye.